So right now, um, it's like 6 in the morning, 6:23 in the morning, and I've I've come to a realization that's kind of huge, and it's kind of the culmination of all of my past experiences, except from the last 2 to 3 years. Um, and so, what I really want to discuss is how I'm going to approach my learning of computer science and how I'm going to apply that to my business and my computer use, and also just my career slash just overall life, right? Um, so the first thing is I just scribbled that on earlier. Um, so the major thing that I do want to get out is this approach that I've been picking up in terms of learning. So I tutored kids. I was working at a spot for over a year and a half. I just quit recently, um, and so right now I'm on leave. So my newborn son has just come to this world. He's new. He was just born a few days ago. So I have 2 months of not having to work, thankfully, right? But in that time, there's something I know that I must do, and now I'm coming to a realization of what it is. So, um, I want to first start with one of the major approaches or things that I've been realizing within my process that I'm able to kind of to see and now capitalize on. It's an idea of higher expanded thinking or expanded thinking, right? And I say higher expanded because at the end of the day, if we have this be the now, the moment that we hold now, the thing that we're doing now is a process, right? Um, there are other processes that are happening above that. Okay, so all of this is a higher form of metacognition. Okay, not a higher form. These are the higher forms of metacognition, right? So the ability to think about your thinking. Um, this is super powerful when you start to implement it into your learning. So this also is a reflection kind of um, Bloom's taxonomy, which prioritizes, um, it's that triangle. Um, at the bottom we have memorizing, and then we have understanding, and then we have application, applying, and then we have I want to say it's evaluating, and then we have synthesizing. Okay, and so most people are often just living at the bottom. Most often people are trained to learn through just purely memorization. But I've figured out that there's a better way and more effective way. So basically, for most of the people that I worked with, the kids that I worked with at the spot, my job, I was working as a tutor. It was a psychoeducational coach, but I was basically coaching kids on how to learn, but I was also basically tutoring them throughout their homework assignments. And so I learned that I really didn't even have to prepare for the homework or the assignments. All I had to do was teach them how to learn, how to approach it. So I didn't have to know exactly what the terms were. All I had to know was how I was going from evaluating to applying, right? How would I have gone from first evaluating, understanding how the teacher is laying out the homework, understanding how he wants them to use the information, understanding kind of what were the main priorities of the assignment. So that was what the evaluation stage was, and then helping them basically apply that. So I was helping them apply what they knew because they had this part. Or most of the time they would have this part. They might have heard of it. They might have seen it, and so they might are mostly coming from this lower end, while I'm coming from this higher end. So I will help them by guiding them up through evaluation and application. So I'd question them, Socratic question them from evaluation down to application, and so most of the time that led to really productive sessions that went deeper into the material, and also productive sessions that allowed for them to actually learn what they were looking to learn. Because now the memorization, the things that they memorized, they could understand more, but also they understood why they were being given the information. So I just want to say that this approach integrates this aspect of Bloom's taxonomy, but it's not all of it. So we're gonna continue to go from there. So I'm actually just gonna take a quick picture of this because I'm gonna upload this into my system, so that my AI can actually integrate this into my way of learning. So then that's the first parallel. But then the second parallel that I want to bridge is just getting deeper into what this means. Okay, so the now, in the way that I've been working and building my systems. So, for example, right now, um, I've been using AI to help me out with my process of editing. So I'm a content creator. I have multiple channels: Lucid Living, Lucid Vlogs, Sauceros. Those are the three main ones. And so I have my process of editing, and I kind of like to see it as a channel, like um, as a channel that I enter through. And so that's my editing channel or just content creation channel. And what I do is, while I'm in here, I also use AI to come in and then spit out something that kind of replicates the channel within itself. And so it's not as expanded, or it's not as it's not the specific process, because this specific process is constantly evolving. Like, for example, I was primarily focusing on just getting some cuts in, like being able to. One of the biggest hurdles was editing long form videos, like a 1 hour to 2 hour podcast, and then being able to cut clips out of it, repurpose some clips, 10 to 20 clips. That'd be awesome. And doing that quickly. I was really struggling with that. And so that would take up a lot of my bandwidth, right? Um, but the issue was that, like, I also want to be able to create even more aesthetic reels or more aesthetic shorts. I also want to be able to do it more quickly, for example, or I want to do more quantity, or or refine that process. So the thing was that, given my constraints, being a father and having a job and having these multiple businesses, I could only stay within the specific allotted channel, um, and so I could only do a specific amount of things. But thanks to AI, I was able to kind of add a small channel in combination with this one, and so in reality, what it had was two bigger sized channels, which were really just coming together as one and adding greater bandwidth, right? And so yes, I'm able now to cut clips automatically thanks to AI, coding, programming, and this is where I'm going. Okay, it's not just AI; it's programming. Um, Thanks to programming, and then that allows for me to do more, which then allows for me, as I learn more, the learning comes and expands more. Okay, more of my channel, and so when I'm engaging in this channel, that's actually this point right here. When I'm observing and understanding from a third person perspective, when I'm looking at myself, and I start to implement the metacognition, I start to see, oh, this is when I enter into a higher state of observation. I see that, oh, I'm finding that I'm doing a lot of these repetitive tasks, and I need to automate them. So I get the AI, implement it, and I send it. And so then this allows me to expand my point even more, right? And so my presence allows for me to expand more. And that's why I call it higher expanded thinking, because you're going higher in the realms of metacognition. um, which is allowing you to also expand, not only thanks to the levels of hierarchy, but also thanks to just the ability to bring more of yourself into the moment. Okay, and that idea is really kind of what I'm coming into. Okay, is really what I've come to. So that's one example, right? And I think that there's much higher levels here, all right? And I want to get to that in terms of how I'm going to be learning computer science. Um, Damn, I should have took it. That's okay. Higher expanded thinking. Okay, so I think that's level one. I think level one really comes down to you being able to see the things that you find annoying, you find tedious, and then giving that to AI. And I think that's like level one of metacognition. I think level two would be talking to your AI and maybe expanding that across various channels. So you're being able to generalize this process onto other segues, your other segments, other segues. Um, for example, how I saw that, how I learned to use AI. Oh my God, I think this is really the thing right here. So I have my process, and then above that is observing my process. I want to call it just, I want to call it like analyzing my process. But on top of that, I'm still analyzing my analysis, which analyzing my analysis of my process. And then above that, it's going to be analyzing once again my process of my process of my process. Okay, and I'll give you a good example right now. So I'm doing editing, right? I'm editing. I have my business, Lucid Healing. Also, I'm a healer, and so I I analyze how I go out in the moment, how I interact with people in the moment, and then I look at what are some common things that I know I can automate. What are some common things that I know are difficult for me that I struggle with, that might be worth me either learning more about or using AI for. And I want to also say that it really is going to come down to learning and AI. Okay, this is my current thing. Okay, but eventually, it really is just learning with AI, which at the end of the day, the holy grail is just learning. Okay, the better you get at your learning, the better all of this becomes. The much stronger you become across all these sections. Really, at the end of the day, the core foundation is learning. Okay, and we'll talk about that. So we have process day to day. I analyze my process, and then I implement something different, right? So then I have the implementation of better systems, right? You got systems, okay? You begin to scaffold a nice framework around your process that allows for that river, that channel, to flow much better. You can begin to um, begin to architect the way that that channel flows, and that eventually leads to expanding that channel, right? Going from a much bigger channel. Okay, so that's the expansion of the channel. But everything else above that kind of expands the channel even greater. But it can also be a little more time consuming. It could take time. We can also think about this: how spirit goes down into the earth and becomes concretized. Okay, and that's really a big part of my process here. At the very top is spirit. At the very top is the soul, the greater self, the higher self. And through these different bodies, you can call it spirit, mental body, emotional body, physical body, and then the now. How are we allowing for the greater self to compress down into the now? All right. And the more we allow to do that, the more expanded the self, the presence, becomes greater. It becomes more expanded, right? Um, so, analyzing the analysis, and I'm gonna give you an example, and this is where I'm going. So, process, I automate, create systems, and when I analyze my systems, I'm like, oh, what did I do there? What did I do with my automation that is worth expanding upon, right? So, what did my thinking about how I automate things. How is that? What does that say about me? What are some things that I know that I don't know about AI, for example, that could allow me to use it even better, right? So recently I realized that I paid for Claude Max. I was paying $100. And I was looking at my usage and I saw that I wasn't even hitting, I was hitting maybe 1/3 of the limit on my day to day, and I wasn't using it every day, nor was I on it for more than 2 hours on a stretch. So I realized I was like, okay, this is not, for my for the commitment that I have to my family of generating income and also saving money. I don't think that me paying for $100 of Claude Max would be beneficial. I'm obviously not using it that much, so what can I do? And so what I realized was that so then I basically, what I did was I used AI to, research. I also researched in general. I looked more into AI, and I found that local AI could be a very good solution. It's free, and I have a 3090. I have an RTX 3090 with 24 gigabytes of VRAM, which is very good. Um, and so why not just invest in local AI, invest in my local hardware? And I'm planning on getting a second 3090. So, that's floating around. I found an interesting deal. Hopefully, I'm able to get it, right? It's on OfferUp, so now it doesn't always pan out. But basically, what I found was that getting a second 3090 for my system would be amazing. But I also know that there's a trade-off because I don't know a lot about how to use AI. I understand that. I realize that it's not Claude, the model itself, that is the main attraction. It's actually um, how Claude is training the model to use the tools that is being given, and that's what they call the harness, right? The harness is all the things around the model. Like, not all models don't have the explicit ability to look online. That's something that it's probably like an API call that is given to the model, so that it goes and searches online, right? And another thing is like being able to think about its thinking, or think in terms of in terms of sequence of events. Um, that that is not kind of what happens with base models, right? Like, you have to kind of train it. Like, if you reach a point where you need to investigate more, or you feel like your memory is getting too full, then you should go and do this, right? So these processes, these harnesses, are really what you're paying for, when you're in the trade-off that happens through local AI, right? So that happened thanks to my analysis of my analysis. Like, hey, I got this process, I'm building it, but I know that there's more here. And so my natural inclination, if you're someone that also relates to this, is like, I've always thought that it was an issue because I would get deep into the mud about it, right? Like, I would have something, I'd learn about it, and then I'd get even deeper about my learning, and before I know it, I completely forgot about the process that I was engaging with, and now I'm operating at this level, and there's really little process happening on the bottom level, right? Like, it's because now I'm planning on learning more about AI, that I'm not really putting a lot of emphasis on growing my Instagram account or my YouTube channel. Um, and now, I used to not be okay with that, but now, because thanks to this project of me realizing that this is much more powerful, the highest leverage thing is in investing into the concepts. Me realizing that has now given me much more satisfaction and also confidence in knowing that this is actually a great approach, and really my soul is taking me here. And so, you just have to allow for yourself to do that. So yes, so thanks to my analysis, I realized I need a second 3090. I need to learn more about AI, and that's that, right? But there was an analysis of my analysis, and I realized, okay, wait, okay, I know I need to learn more about AI, but how does this apply to me, right? And so we're going a level above that, and um, I think above that is this idea that, okay, the question is this question that, okay, how does this apply to me, and how can I do this in a way that I'm breathing this, right? How can I become this individual who is breathing the things that I need to do, right? It's like, I get up and I eat, and just like I get up and I eat, I get up and I study, for example. I study about AI. And so what came there was realized I had to shift my identity. I have to think and see myself as an engineer. Okay, and this was recently, right? It's like I went to school for engineering, and then I changed to psychology because I had more passion in that. Um, and yet now I've always had the potential for engineering, and the ability to learn math, and I've took all the classes, most of the math classes that I needed for engineering. Um, and I keep getting called to inner architecture, to the architecture of computer, right? Computer architecture. That's just so interesting to me. Um, and so I realized, I was like, wow. I started watching this one channel. I forgot what it's called. Something bridge, branch learning. I don't know, but they have this whole series. It's this whole channel dedicated to teaching people about electronics. They use 3D software to visualize all of the inner architecture, and it's freaking amazing, right? And and so I started doing that, and I realized, like, oh wow, like a computer is really an amalgamation of, physics, chemistry, um, also, psychology, because they're integrating the neural networks, are kind of paralleling, the neural networks that we have in our mind. And so I realized, I'm like, oh shit, like all of the things I've been teaching these kids, how to learn physics, how to learn chemistry, how to learn these complex topics, mathematics, English, linguistics, etc. All these things are really integrated into computer science. Like linguistics is a part of computer science in the sense that programming is, you know, syntax, there's all these things that are essential to learning how to program. So if I can think like a linguist and apply that to programming, then that also evolves my ability to learn it. So yes, I hit this big thing. I was like, wow, all of these things that I've been learning around computer science have been um, are influenced by all the things that I've been doing. All these things that I've been learning influence how I could learn computer science, and they influence the field. As it's thanks to all this study of physics and all this stuff, that the field of computer science and the individuals that make it up, it's thanks to that studying and that learning that we've been able to create the systems that we have now, which are so amazing. And so not only am I realizing that I'm enamored by computer science, I'm also realizing I'm enamored by the process of learning computer science and the way and the evolution of its growth. The evolution of its trajectory. It's like, wow, we've gotten to this point. Um, and today I have realized another analysis here. And so this is really, I'm going to tell you guys something. It's thanks to all the spiritual work that I've done. It's thanks to all the esoteric study that I've done that I've been able to elevate these things much more clearly and see them more clearly. Um, there's a point of tension that I arrived to yesterday where I was like, bro, like, I feel like I need to do something, but I don't know what to do. And it's bothering me because I do want to grow my business. I do also want to learn AI. I do also want to build a career. Um, make money, and but I also do want to do it in a way that's most meaningful and true to me, right? And so now I arrived to, and I know I'm like, okay, I just know I'm gonna get the answer. I allow for God to guide me. I allow for my soul to guide me, and so hopefully tomorrow when I wake up, I have a better idea of what I need to do. And so today I did. Um, so I came to this idea. I was like, okay, I know that computer science is what I need to learn. Yesterday, I just got a free motherboard, um, and I'll probably share a video about this later on. I got a free motherboard, and the universe is showing me something. What is this about? Uh, and so, what I was, what I see happening is these next 2 months are going to be the path for me to really study computer science, but I'm going to do so applying what I've learned from my previous job. So just like I taught the kids to learn first, conceptually, and then they could naturally learn, memorization, I'm going to be applying that this summer, while also picking up some memory techniques from the greats, right? Like method of loci, which helps with retention and memorization. And so my analysis of all of these analyses has brought me to this point where I'm like, I have to hone in on computer science. I have to learn everything that I can about computer science, and that is because when I can when I can mentally visualize all of these concepts, what exactly is RAM, what exactly is happening with local AI when it's working, how does VRAM affect local AI, but also how does DRAM affect VRAM, and you know, and so like, why is a computer architectured in the way that it is? Because that is also helping me relate to how my mind is architectured. Like if we think about how one of the main things is like one of the main issues I've had lately has been that AI does not really synthesize that well. Like I have a RAG system, and I have a bunch of stuff that I ingested into there, like years of my content, and also books that I've read, and it's not the best at synthesizing, or at least I've been trying to. Maybe I haven't figured it out, but I realized like it's not as good as the brain. Like it's not as good as my process, which is like what I wanted was hello. Yeah, yeah, I'm going. Okay, I had to go grab my son. Um, Speaking of my newborn son. Okay, so like I said, um, like I said, um, so so it just came to me. I have to learn everything. I have to get deeper into it. And so my plan is, um, this is coming from a higher form of analysis, which is like now I'm making the connection between how does me learning about this thing affect the way that my mind works, right? It's like, okay, buddy. How does learning about this thing affect the way that my mind works? And like, can I see how these internal images that I'm making, can I see how that is going to affect the way that I operate in this world? And so I'll give you a quick anecdote. It's like I was learning about um, how AI gets structured, how computer systems get structured, and then what I realized was, oh wow, that's actually kind of how my mind is structured, and so I'm already making some connections between neuroscience and computer science, and I'm doing that from an internal perspective. Like I'm seeing how my mind operates, thanks to how computer science operates, and so it's giving me a reflection of kind of how to better use AI. Like I'm seeing like, okay, I'm understanding that people, for example, with memory, there's different hierarchies of memory, right? Like there's the RAM, the which you have 64 gigabytes of RAM. I have 64 gigabytes of RAM in my computer, but then there's also SSDs which have like 1 terabyte of memory. Now I feel like I'm flip flopping. Like there's a specific reason why people call it memory and other things like other things, but RAM cannot hold as much, right? The DRAM cannot hold as much as an SSD, but there's a reason why they're doing it the way that they're doing it, and they're constructed the way that they're constructed. And then we can think about how short-term memory might be like VRAM, while long-term memory could be the SSD. And so I think that if in paralleling that, we're able to then come to a realization of like, oh, how can I, given that I understand how my mind works better, right? There's specific techniques like mnemonics, and there's also the method of loci for long-term storage. And so, how can I? Oh, my little buddy. How can I apply what I've been seeing that works into computer science, right? That's the main question. So I'm at this point now. My major decision is the following. It's learn computer science for the next 2 months, and I'm going to teach myself through the following. Okay, I have this is my way of um, this is my plan. Okay. Now the main thing is I'm not going to put a high priority on my business just because I'm going to start working as a tutor more. I want to make tutoring my career for now, and that's going to help. It's going to help pay for all these projects that I'm doing, but also just help me sustain my family. Um, and so work as a tutor, and as I'm working as a tutor, I also am learning more about these topics. So I am going to be more generalized. But that it comes back, right? It is beneficial. So I want to definitely learn conceptually. So I'm going to be using the book SICP, and then using that book, I'm going to be also implementing AI in my learning. So any questions that I have, it's going to help me bring these things together. Um, Also, going to use um, memory techniques. I haven't really been able to use them that much because I was working and been busy. But I think that now I can start to actually apply them and feel like I can really use them in a way that's helpful. And then I'm also going to be tinkering or implementing. So I'm just going to be building. So I got a new motherboard, and so I want to be able to use that and play around with it. But also I'm going to be building my systems. So the building phase of it is going to also include my social media stuff, my content creation. Um, so that doesn't stop, right? Um, and then I also am going to have my just tinkering with the motherboard. I don't know what I really want to do with it yet. Maybe I'll ask online. Um, and then what else? Tinkering, building, content creation, tinkering, and I think just overall, just applying, just basically building more systems. Like it's been insane, but the more I use AI, the better applications I find for it. So I just started using it for finances. I'm now going to start using it for, for helping me cook, building a system around that. So that's helpful. And then, is that it? I think that's it. I think that's it for now. So that's my 2 months it's gonna involve learning SICP, and I think eventually I'll be learning the program. But I think that will naturally come. I don't think I'm ready for programming yet, because what I really want to do is learn about inner architecture and how code leads to physical changes in the computer system. I really want to do. I really want to see that. If I can understand the architecture of a computer, I will understand how powerful my word is. Right, like the programming words that I'm using, the languages. Like I can understand how powerful they are because of all the complexity and just the beauty of the inner architecture. That will give me so much more meaning. But also SICP, which is another aspect of programming, the concepts. And I think that this itself, man, like that is going to take me to another level as a thinker. That's the main thing. So I will keep you guys updated. I think what I really want to turn this Lucid Vlogs channel into is just showing my progress as I'm learning. Like right now, I'm going to make another video on the motherboard. And once I get my second GPU, I really want to show you guys my process. Maybe show you guys what I'm doing, how I did it, and then what I'm learning. And also maybe memory techniques. Maybe I can talk about memory techniques, but also just more things that I'm using for self-teaching myself. I think there's a market or a need, both a market or demand for helping people learn to learn, and
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. I'm honestly not gonna cut this. So whatever. My son just fell asleep. So now we're ready for to take over.